Lakeview. Welcome to this week's Spiritual Formation Moment. We hope that these moments have been invitations for you to learn new rhythms for not just surviving life, but meeting it with a measure of joy and expectation. These practices are ways that we not only experience God's grace, but ways we can potentially learn to be so comfortable in our own skin that who we are on the inside is who we are on the outside. There's no pretension, no effort spent managing our image. Instead, we know love and give love. We're connected to the source. There's agility and energy that helps us live our lives well, even when life is difficult. Let me give you an example. I do not come from an athletic family. We walk kind of funny. We're a little physically awkward. We might be able to beat you in a game of trivia, but never in a game of pickup. My children are different though. They are more comfortable in their own bodies than I am, especially my youngest son. And when I watch him play basketball, I'm amazed at how fluid and at one his brain and body are. I don't know how that happens. He makes it look effortless. And that's a picture of what can happen for us as we allow the disciplines to align what is up on our insides with what's going on our outsides. We can become so in tune with the one thing that we live our lives with ease and grace, with integrity and beauty. Matthew 5:8 says this: "You're blessed when you get your inside world, your mind and heart put right. Then you can see God in the outside world." In another version, it says this: "Blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God." One of the best ways that we allow God to put our inside world right so that we can see and respond to God in the outside world is through the practice of silence. We live in a world of noise. For most of us, silence is something we need to seek out. Noise shows up in different ways in all of our lives. For some of us, it's actual noise. We always have a podcast or the radio or the TV on. We're scared to turn down the noise because we're also afraid of what's going to bubble up from inside of us. For some of us, the noise is represented by busyness. We jump from activity to activity, afraid that if we stop paddling, we might sink. And there's this panic that undergirds all of our actions and that motivates us to just keep swimming, just keep swimming. This means that our actions, a lot of times, and our words are determined by unseen forces that we never take the time to examine or look at. When we're anxious or afraid or overwhelmed, we start to spray the bullets, and sometimes we don't even know why. And the writer of Proverbs knew this, and this is what he says: "Watch your words and hold your tongue. You'll save yourself a lot of grief." When we practice silence, we take a step back from these automatic skin-deep reactions and give ourselves the space to take a look at the unnamed things that are running the show, and then let God into those spaces. Silence does all kinds of good things in us, including revealing to us where we use words to manage other people's perceptions of us, how we use words to impose our will on others, to control and manage, or the way we use words to hide the truth about who we are instead of using them to reveal the truth about ourselves and our world. Perhaps it reveals how we use words to talk about things that are vapid or just fill space, or how we use words to talk about others in ways that aren't life-giving. But mostly, silence gives us room to receive what God wants to give us, to hear what God wants to say. It's a way to press pause and rest in the love of God, to experience that God's love is not dependent on our productivity or on our image or capacity to convince him of our worth. Silence is not just about turning down the noise out there, but also learning to turn down the noise in here so that we can hear not the same old messages about who we are, but hear the still small voice of God speaking words of truth and love. Back to that Matthew passage. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. There's a story of someone seeing God in the Bible. In 1 Kings, we read the story of one of God's prophets, Elijah. He's been working his tail off for God, and he enters a kind of depression. And when he tells God about it, God tells Elijah to go stand on the side of a mountain because God's going to come and visit him. As Elijah stands there, a plow wind comes through, crazy strong wind, but God is not in the wind. Then an earthquake hits and shakes the earth beneath Elijah's feet, but God is not in the earthquake. Then a fire tears through. I don't know if you have ever been witness to fire, but it's terrifying and powerful. But God is not in the fire. Finally, Elijah hears a small whisper. And guess what? God is in the whisper. When things got quiet for Elijah, he heard God. You have to listen to hear a whisper. You have to get quiet. And that's also one of the fruits of silence. The ability to listen to ourselves and not to be afraid of our own inner world. The ability to listen to God and discern the truth. And the ability to really listen to one another and be a source of compassion in the world. So get quiet. Find some silence to sink into. Maybe it's just turning the radio off when you get in the car. Maybe you have to seek it out because there's noise everywhere in your home and life. It might mean you have to get up early or stay up a little later than your family. Or maybe, like me, you have lots of space to enter into silence, but it sometimes feels lonely and overwhelming to engage it. Remember that after the howling wind of loneliness blows through, after the earthquake of fear that you're not enough or won't amount to anything, after the fire of grief and loss, comes the still small